Hey, Crystal Maiden here for the final part of Tails' adventure. So now we're going back into the Battle Fortress because we lost way too much health on that previous level and we went straight into it. And again, I just love the fact that you can have a map screen. So if you go into a level with too much health lost, you don't have to backtrack through the previous level to get to it. So you can just go straight back into it if you want. This is the wrench, and it's really only useful if you don't realize that you can use the Sonic icon here. What the wrench does is that it reverses the direction that the conveyor belts are moving. Like, you use the wrench on the purple squares, and it reverses the direction that these things. You use the wrench on that. But I'm not going to be showing that off, because one, it's kind of pointless and I don't really care. And two, if you're using the wrench instead of the Sonic icon, you're doing it wrong, because the Sonic icon is a lot more fun to play around with. Although, I guess it's easy to make the mistake of you just assume that the wrench is mandatory for beating the level. And so you play the rest of the level with the wrench instead of the Sonic icon because you just assume that's mandatory. Like, that's one of the problems I have with this game, is that it's kind of obtuse, in a sense. Because, like, this is my second playthrough and I still essentially use the guide. Like, I looked at a map every step of the way to make sure that I wasn't missing any items. And every time that I got stuck in my first playthrough, I would consult Clement's Let's Play to figure out how I was supposed to get past the areas. So, like, I got stuck multiple times, and it's not always, like, you have no way of knowing what items you should bring with you to get to the next levels, or to beat levels. Which is part of why you don't really want to use the optional items, because you can only have 4 item slots for some reason. And so you don't want one of those item slots to be wasted. And normally I would complain about them recycling the music of Coco Island for this one, but considering that it takes place on the exact same island, it makes sense to me. You know, like, Coco Island is essentially the same level as this one. Only different levels on it, obviously. And it takes place in the same tiny island. It's just confusing because it's called Coco Island without an A for the island that this takes place on. But the island that you go to in general is called Coco Island with an A. And it just doesn't make any sense to me, the American story. Because, I mean, sure, you've got a Knuckles and Fang power-up, but they could just be meta references. Like, I mean, I guess in canon Tails builds them, but who said the icons really have to be canon? I mean, they're not really necessary for beating the game. I mean, it's like, if Tails actually built the Sonic icon in canon, then wouldn't you be wondering why he didn't keep it after this game? Oh, god damn it! And it happened again! See? See? I killed him when he was standing up from above. They have really wonky hitboxes. Like, it's not, like, you think that they're immune from above because their helmets protect them, but they're just programmed arbitrarily to be invincible when they're crouching. As long as they're not crouching, you can kill them from above just fine. Yeah, you really don't want to fall past those down arrows because getting all the way back up here is pretty annoying. Like, this level in general is pretty annoying. Although, compared to the nightmare that was Green Island, and, well, no, not Heron Forest, because I like that level. It was Green Island and that cave where you had to use the night vision goggles. Like, I hated that level. Like I hated the level with the trees that you constantly fall through and have to repeat stuff you already did. And I hated the cave with the night vision goggles, where you had to break a floor in a very specific way to platform. Like, I hated those two levels, and like Crystal, I just hated that level. And they're halfway into the game. So, I kind of feel like the game's worst part is halfway point. But honestly, I feel like it's for the best that you put the worst part of the game at the halfway point. Because if you end up putting the worst part of the game at the very beginning, then it's a lot more likely that you'll give up before you can see the rest of the game. Because it's right at the beginning, and first impressions are everything. And if you put the most annoying part of the game at the end of it, then it's very, very likely that people will just give up and say, I've seen enough. So putting it at the halfway point of the game is good because you're already so into it that you don't really want to quit. And you're not so into it that you'll feel like you've seen enough. This boss drags out for too long. It's a lot better than the first Speedy fight, but you're pretty much just waiting for it to end. You stay on that one platform, and it's really annoying how you can constantly throw the bombs above his head, and you have to throw them at exactly the right time. Now, I did not want to hang off that ledge there. He just automatically grabbed it. So Speedy will fly around in a square, firing different projectiles at you. The blue ones he fires horizontally right in front of him. Apparently, Speedy is the son of the final boss of the game, who is the leader of the Great Cuckoo Army. And the Archie comics actually made it so that Jet the Hawk and Storm the Albatross and Wave the Swallow from Sonic Riders, which is a spin-off game about airborne racing. I feel like it takes place in the future, assuming it is canon at all, because there's a place called Future City, which has flying cars, and they fly through giant white rings, and no one really seems to question it. So I feel like if Riders even is canon, it takes place in the far future. But anyways, Jet the Hawk was apparently related to this guy in the Archie comics, which makes sense because they're both evil birds. And then Jet went off to do his own thing. Makes much better sense for a backstory for him than him being an alien or a genie. But anyways, this boss fight is pretty annoying. I mean, he doesn't deal much damage to you, which is a good design choice because chances are you're very low on health by the time you get to this point. Because half of my health is already gone. So, when he starts ducking, then he'll just start sending out bombs. Like you gotta dodge the bombs, obviously. And if you go too close to him, then he'll grab you and waste your time for multiple seconds shaking you around. And the grabbing animation looks really lazy because he barely looks like he's telekinetically throwing you around. I guess now we know where Silver got his telekinesis from. His glove did not look like it was attached to his body at all. I love the music for this boss fight. But yeah, it's a pretty easy boss fight. Towards the end of it, you're better off flying above his head and dropping bombs on him. But at the start, you can just throw bombs at him while jumping. But you gotta be careful not to get too close to him, which is easy to do because it's instinctive to think that what you need to do to throw bombs forwards is to hold forwards while throwing them. But actually you can just stand still. So I was actually pretty surprised that I managed to beat that boss without dying. Cause again, on my first playthrough of this game, I played it with an Infinite Rings code. But when I played this, I wanted it to be legitimate, and it really wasn't that hard of a game. Especially not at the end, when Tails has a lot more health, and some pretty good items, but I don't feel like, until you get the Sonic icon, Tails never really feels like he's overpowered in terms of items. Well, except in Lake Rocky in that one section where you use the extra armor. But that's about it. But yeah, I think Tails Adventure is a pretty good game. It's pretty underrated in my opinion. It's definitely the best Metroidvania I've ever played. Although I've never actually played any other Metroidvanias. Never really had an interest. I love the credits medley here. Like, I love how they use higher pitched, happy sounding remixes of songs you already heard rather than just making the same ones over and over again. It really does a good job to make you feel good. But anyways, I love this game. Like, I love how it's got linear level design that doesn't get you constantly lost, and all of the level design is very memorable. Like, it's got a lot of memorable set pieces. So you never feel like, have I been here before? You know? Like, I love getting items, and I love the satisfaction of getting 100%. I don't mind how slow Tails is because it's the perfect speed for a kind of game like this where you're going to be exploring the whole levels. Because in Sonic CD, I never wanted to explore all the levels because I was going fast. So I played it like a regular Sonic game where I was just going fast. In this game, you're slow for a reason. And you're not dreadfully slow like in Sonic Labyrinth. And I think the controls are pretty good. Really, the only problem I have with the game is that you don't jump into enemies to hurt them. And the enemies are so small and agile that they can easily potshot you as you're helpless. And they can very easily hit you. And you feel like that's cheap. But that's really the only major problem I have with the game. Like, I wish Tails would jump into enemies, but like the graphics are pretty good aside from sometimes when you can't tell the difference between the background and the foreground, and it's like I love that animation where he's spinning around and he's looking down. That's so cute looking. Also, I'm not sure why he was building a larger version of the remote robot when the whole reason that the remote robot was so useful in the first place is that it could squeeze into small, tight areas. But anyways, I love this game. And I'm glad that I was able to show this off. The next game I'm going to be playing is Sonic 3D Blast. But it's not going to be the one that everyone's familiar with. But I am going to do my best to show off everything that it has to offer. Like, I'm going to be playing the Genesis version, but I'm still going to be talking about the Saturn version and showing at least a little footage of it.